Hi, I'm Jeff with Madeira USA, and today's project comes from Michael. He asked me to come up with a safety-conscious Halloween costume. Safety, but also style. So we put our heads together and naturally we came up with a cat costume, because nothing says safety like a small child dressed in black roaming the streets at night, blending into the darkness where cars cannot see them. Perfect. So we're going to fix that with embroidery, and more specifically, Luna Glow thread. We're going to put a big design on the back that says, "Perhaps a treat." It's adorable, it's punny, it glows, and most importantly, cars can see it. So stick around as we go from digitizing to production, and then we're going to test the glow embroidery like scientists. Before we dive in, take a guess in the comments. Will Luna Glow thread be bright enough for real trick-or-treat safety? We will find out in a real scientific test that may or may not involve my bathroom with the lights off.
So everybody, this is the design that we ended up settling on. Kids age 7 to 9, well, they love cats, and parents love kids not getting hit by cars, and Michael loves safety. So we kind of took the iconic trick-or-treat line and we made it a cat pun. Here we are in GiS BasePac 10, and we're going to go ahead and start digitizing this design. We've already got it sized on our canvas, and typically when I do large back designs or designs like this, I like to start from the center out and I kind of go bottom up. So I'm going to go ahead and start here on the E, and we're going to go into punch mode, and that's going to allow us to start digitizing as long as we have our insert mode on. So this is going to allow us to pick where we want to go. So I'll go ahead and go down in here, zoom in a little bit, and I'll just kind of set some stitches in a lock stitch formation. We'll come out just a little bit. I can right click, and now I can do my fill. And this is pretty cool, just being able to right click, select my tool, and start working around the object. Now a single click is going to be a curved node. If I want to do a cusp node, I'm just going to double click here. We'll double click there, come around like that, and away we go. This will be pretty simple. You'll see that it's going to kind of grab there, and it'll do that because it wants to close off the shape, but we don't need to do that yet, so we'll just move around the E. All these letters are going to be fairly simple. We're just going to go around them, give them direction, and then we'll do a satin stitch around them as well. So I'll kind of come up here, I'll double click there as well. Now I want to check and I want to set my parameters or my settings here. So right now we've got our covering stitches, our stitch type, which is standard. I'm going to change that to a complex fill. It's going to change my density, and I actually want to go to a 4.5 density there. And we'll check our underlay. So we're going to have a running underlay, which is going to go around the contour, which is fine, and a single fill that's going to go around that, so that's good as well. So right now I want to add a hole. So I'm going to click here to add a hole, and we'll just go around the inside of the object here to add our hole. Perfect, like that. I want to set my end point of the design, and I'm actually going to set my end point right there. We'll hit enter a couple of times, and there we go. If I want to back up and I want to change that stitch angle, I'll just go ahead and set that stitch angle to about right there. We go through, and now we've recalculated our stitches to that angle, and I can come in here and backspace up one right there, and we'll go ahead and do a satin stitch. Now I want to set my parameters here as well. So I'm going to come in and let's just check our covering stitches, our stitch type here. It's going to be a satin stitch. Again, I'm going to go to a 4.5 on that as well. We'll check our underlay. I want it on my center line because I want a center run underlay under that, and I don't want any fill underlay. Let's just check our covering stitches one more time, like covered area. And everything's looking good here. We are a center line, so I want to go to about 1.5 millimeters width. We'll go ahead and hit OK, and that sets the parameters there for us. So now I'm just going to move around the shape here, and you can see that it's giving us that simple, clean, fixed width satin. I'll come there, and I'm going to set my end point right here. Just like that, I'll hit enter and it'll generate those stitches. Now I want to do a run stitch, and when I do run stitches in fill lettering here, I really like to follow the direction of the stitches. So I'm actually going to come here. We're going to follow that direction of the stitches right out to the edge. We'll hit enter, and that'll drop a run stitch right there. And the nice part about dropping a run stitch right there, when we go to true view, is you're not going to see it. It's going to actually fall into the stitches on the top, and it'll disappear as we go around there. So next up, I'm going to do again a steel stitch, and we're just going to move around the embroidery here, giving us a nice little margin to go around. And I'll just come up here, set a couple of corners, and again around the inside here. We'll go ahead and end that shape, and I'm going to set my endpoint, and I like to do my endpoints on the inside edge of a shape. So we'll go ahead and do that, and now I'll hit enter just to end the object, and you can see that it generated the shape there. And we'll just do a couple of lock stitches, and we'll throw a trim in there. And after that, we've got that shape done, and we can come over here and we can work on our R. So one of the reasons why I actually chose to do a fill and a border around here is the width of these satins. So if we get in here and we measure our length, so we'll go ahead and get in here to measure our length. We'll bring that over to right about there. We get here, that satin stitch is getting right around 12 millimeters right there. If we bring it down and we look here, again, we're looking 14 millimeters. So I could pull this in, or I could leave it as it is. But ultimately, I decided to do a fill because this is going to be worn on the back of a garment. So if there is any abrasion that's going to happen during wearing or anything like that, it's going to wear a lot better if we do the fill rather than a full-blown satin stitch that's going to reach across the entire outside of the object there. All right, so we went ahead and got this design a little bit further, and as you can see, I've got my first R right here. And if I want to, instead of redigitizing the letter, I can just copy it and paste it, and we can move it over here and maybe just adjust the shape a little bit so that we're not having to redigitize multiple letters that are the same. And it's really simple to do. Just grab and copy them in the selection mode there. So after we got it copied and adjusted, we can just continue on with our letters. All right, and now that we've got our design done, we're ready to go.
All right, now that Amazon got us our package, let's go ahead and take a look at what we're working with here. We can see that it already has some embroidery on it, and it is in there very tight. We've got a couple of gloves, some face decor, but here is the real star of the show. It is the cat costume, and they've got some embroidery on the hood already. Go ahead and double check. They put the stabilizer inside, which is really nice. And it is a full, as you can see here, it is a full cat costume going up and down. Now, really what I'm looking at here is right across the back. We're gonna go and check out across the shoulder seams here. Because this is gonna define how large our design can be. We'll go ahead and take a look. And if you guys have our placement guide that we released in the past, you'll know that we're gonna go about 4 inches down from the yoke to the top of the design. So we're looking at a window right about here. We have this seam in the middle, which shouldn't be an issue. We'll just go right over the top of it. And this is a microfiber. Now, when I take on the fabric here, I'm gonna go ahead and push. This has an elastic cuff on it, but I'm pushing on the fabric. And this doesn't have a lot of stretch to it, which is really good. So we're gonna use a cutaway because it's a nice woven. We might be able to get away with a tearaway, but I'm gonna use a cutaway for this project. Maybe float a tearaway underneath just in case. So now that we've got our window that we wanna hoop at, we need to basically measure and mark where we're going to be. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark this. I've got some masking tape that I'm gonna mark it with. I did fold in the edges. When you're doing this kind of stuff with masking tape, it can be really hard sometimes to get it to peel up off the garment. So I put a couple tabs on the side to make it a little bit easier. Now I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna set this right at the 0 mark on the top of the seam. And I'm gonna come down to around, let's go 4.5 inches. Now when I'm setting this, I'm setting the bottom of the tape at 4.5 inches, and it's going right across that seam. And as you can see, I've got these little wings that I can flip up to pull off when I do that. And again, we're 4.5 inches down to the bottom of the design. Now we just need to get this guy hooped and set up. So for hooping, I could go one of two ways. I could do it with a standard 12-inch hoop. We can go ahead and set that up here. As you can see, the design would come down. We can use the hoop markers to get it centered and make sure it is square off of the design. Again, I'm looking at the seams when I set this up here, as well as the side seams. So we're gonna go ahead and use a 12x12 hoop. For stabilizer, I'm gonna use a Madeira cutaway. It's a 3 ounce, it's a really soft cutaway. It feels really nice against the skin. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that and it'll help support the design. Now to hoop this, we'll take this, we'll open this guy up. You can see it's got a zipper. So we'll go ahead and unzip and we'll peel this back. Now I will be using a topping on this design that I'll put on when I go onto the machine, and the topping is going to help with holding down that fluff. So with this, it is like a micro plush. It's got some fuzz to it. And so we're gonna put that topping down on top. It's gonna help hold and arrest that and keep the stitches up on top of it. Now, we're just gonna pop this open. I've unzipped the costume as far as it'll go. It doesn't unzip as far as I'd like it to go, but that's okay. So we'll go ahead and open this guy up here. And I'm gonna take my hoop and we'll completely loosen up this outer ring. So I like to loosen up my outer ring. I like to kind of pre-tension my hoops. And so this is gonna allow me to do that. I'm gonna be able to take this, put it inside, and now we've got a lot of play in that hoop ring. I'll take and I'll put the stabilizer on the inside of the garment, on the inside of the hoop. Let me grab my ring. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually hoop the garment with the stabilizer, and then I'll take that ring and I'll tighten it up after the fact. And that's gonna help me adjust it to the thickness of the fabric. And then I'll turn it maybe 1 or 2 turns more, and we should be good to go from there. So I'll go ahead and set that in the center. We're gonna bring this up and over, making sure I'm checking to see where my garment is, but I'm also checking down here to make sure that I'm not hooping the zipper or the inside of the pants, which I actually am at this point. So we'll go ahead and lift that up and make sure that the hoop goes inside of that zipper. And that's just gonna sit a little bit lower to where that cattail would be. Very similar to how you would hoop any garment. There we go. Get that kind of widened out here and feel for my hoop. So I'm gonna slide my hoop down just a little bit more down inside of the costume, because I wanna make sure that my design is in the center of the hoop. Now I'll go ahead and I have my reference lines. I can go and I can lock this in here. And you can see that with some of the seams, this is getting a little tight already. So we'll go ahead and get this shifted and in, and that feels actually pretty secure. I'll tighten this up, and that's gonna pre-tension my hoop right there. All right, so now that we've got our hoop pre-tensioned, we can actually hoop this for real this time. So I'll go ahead again, I'll get my costume, I'll get my hoop all set up and laid out. I do need to make sure that we're going deep enough into the hoop, and I'm gonna take my top hoop here. I'm gonna set it across the seams to get where I want it to be on that seam and get it centered just a little bit. And I'm just taking a look at where it's gonna fall on those seams. So we'll go ahead and check here. And I'm just making sure that I'm centered on that seam and that my seams coming down to the sides are also lining up. And when I'm happy with that, I'm gonna pull the material out of the way. I'm gonna flip that guy up. We're gonna fix our small hoop down here. there's a lot of material that is in the way. And so we're being very cautious to make sure that we're going to keep this nice and taut. So let's go ahead and pull this out here. Make sure that I am not hooping, again, the outside of the zipper. So that zipper was in the road. Let's check and make sure this zipper is not in the road too. So now my zippers are clean and out of the road. I'm going to make sure that my seam is centered in the hoop and that my seams up here are matching nicely. We're just going to clear and make sure everything's up out of the road. There. And there. And right now, if we take a look at that, the upper seam is a little crooked, so we're going to slide this just a hair that way. The lower seam is looking good. Our side seams look a little off, so we'll bring that up like that. And I'm really just trying to dial in to make sure that I'm getting this nice and square. So my opening of my hoop is up here at the top right. So generally when I do a hoop, you can either hoop down towards where that opening is down where you're at. I like to do it where the opening is up at the top. So we'll go ahead and set that there. I'll get my hoop in. I'll work my hands back and I'll get that nice and hooped. And now we just kind of double check our hooping and everything looks pretty good. It's looking straight and everything looks good. So now we're just going to go ahead and take this. We're going to put it on the machine. We'll put our topper on there and then we'll go ahead and run the design. So let's go ahead and grab it off the machine. There we go. And we've got it here. And I'm going to see if I can just focus that camera there for a second. Boop, boop, boop. It makes some noise when it happens. Go ahead and remove the tape from the water soluble, and we'll remove some of the water soluble. Now generally when I remove this, I try to remove as much as I can without using water. It just is a little bit easier if you don't have to use water, but sometimes you do. And a lot of it depends on the direction that you're actually removing the soluble. So I got a good chunk of it off there. I've got my 3D Puff Pro tool, and I really like this for pulling this stuff out too, because it really helps kind of get into these areas that are a little bit harder to get into, and it allows me to kind of pull and remove as we go along. So go ahead and drop in there. Naturally, that comes up at a horrible time. Grab that one right there out of the center, and you can see some of this black fuzz, like these little lint drops on top here. I did end up having a couple of thread breaks, and the thread breaks were actually because it took me a little bit to figure this out. The fabric itself was melting to the needle, and I threw that little piece away. I shouldn't have, because I could have zoomed in on it later with the camera. But what was happening is that was stopping the thread from running in the thread path. And so when it was stopping the thread from running in the thread path, it was causing the thread not to be able to retract, and it was causing thread breaks. So once I discovered that, it was pretty simple, just clean that off every couple of times it went into the thread break. I think I had about 3 in the entire design. It wasn't a problem with the thread as much as it was a problem with the fabric that we were embroidering on, which was a little unique. Go ahead and finish cleaning these out here. And again, I really like this 3D Puff Pro tool. Tweezers would work as well. I'm just trying to get in and under and not pull up too much of the fluff. And then I can get these sections out. And this just works really well for me here. There we go. And just a couple more. You know, this would be really unethical if it was actually a cat. But it is definitely a lot easier than hooping a live cat. There we go. And we've got the majority of it off right there. We do have a little bit of the fluff coming up around the edges, but that's fine. We could have mitigated that a little bit if we put down a knockdown stitch, but I didn't really want to throw down a knockdown stitch on this garment. So let's go ahead and unhoop it here. That's good. We don't have a lot of hoop burn, which is fantastic. That's part of the reason why we did the double hooping process. And let me flip this over and we'll go ahead and trim this stabilizer. Let me grab some scissors. We can go ahead and just cut right around. I like to slide the scissors around the design. I'll go ahead and pull this up here so you guys can see it. Slide the scissors around and just feel. Generally you can feel when you start getting a little bit too close to the fabric, or you start catching on the fabric. And we don't want to trim that fabric, so we're just going to be cautious here as we come up and around. Go around kind of rough like that, and finish up right there. So now we have our backing trimmed, and let's go ahead and take a look at the final design as it comes across. We have it right there, perhaps a treat. Hopefully it's not mirrored in the camera. That is in the Luna Glow thread. We've been blasting it with light here for a second, so I am going to try and turn off as many lights as I can really fast, and we'll go ahead and see that glow right there. Now the glow is actually quite a bit brighter than it shows on camera. Go ahead and bring this up a little bit closer. All right, and there's our finished design. Michael, mission accomplished. This tiny cat is now the lighthouse of Halloween. And this came out fantastic with Madeira Luna thread. You guys, if you'd like our content, please like and subscribe to our channel and check out what we have coming next.